Namaskar. I am your host Ashish Bhardwaj, a DPS Mathura Road alumnus, and I welcome you all to Alma Talks, an initiative of DPS Alumni Network. Today, I am joined by my co-host Tanya. Tanya, please come in.
Namaskar everyone, I'm Tanya from 2008 batch from DPS Mathura Road. Presently I'm based out of Delhi and working with Wipro Technologies. I love to do swimming, but I think during this time the pandemic is so bad that you can't pursue your hobbies, right?
Yeah, thank you, Tanya. I will now invite Rajiv Soni to give a brief message on the show Phir Bhi Dil Hai Hindustani.
Namaskar, everybody. So, 1976 batch, DPS Mathura Road. I'm a chartered accountant, but a non-practicing one now. I'm now into writing as a novelist as well as a teacher. I've been in the teaching line for now about 25 years. I had a brief stint in the US, and a lot of my thoughts then have got translated into this particular show here. But I never thought it would be so wonderful as this. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you the earlier participants. Thank you to the alumni who have connected us with all of you. So it's not one person's effort. It's everybody's effort, everybody's interest in the show, and hopefully it will bloom further. You'll be happy to know that as of today, we are booked till first week of October. So that's wow.
Thank you, Rajiv. Today, both our guests are from US. I'll first introduce you to Vinita Jain of 1989 batch from North Carolina.
Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be in this show. I'm from the 1989 batch, and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina for the last 20 years. And I am a professional artist and an art educator.
Love to see a view of your painting.
Oh, sure. So this is a painting that I'm working on right now. That's another one. That's there. This is my mess. This is all my supplies here.
Okay.
That's another picture I'm working on. It's a portrait, but I just started with it. So this is basically my studio. This is where I work.
Now I'll welcome my second guest, Shazia Khan of 2000 batch from Massachusetts.
Hello everybody, I'm really delighted to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm Shazia Khan, batch of 2000, Mathura Road. I live in Boston for about 9.5 years now, 9.5 to 10 years. Yeah, and I'm really happy to chat with all of you today.
And let me also add, Shazia was the head girl of her batch. Welcome Vinita, welcome Shazia to this 11th episode of Phir Bhi Dil Hai Hindustani. I'll start the first question with you, Vinita. Please briefly take us through your journey after DPS that led you to the US.
After I finished my high school, I went to do my undergrad, and I did home science, and then I switched gears. I went into commercial art, and I worked in a graphic design company for a few years. And then my route to coming to US was not because of my work, but rather a very traditional route, that I got married to my husband, and he was already living here for the, before I came here, he was already settled here like for 3 years or so. So that's how I came here, like with him. And, but when I came here, I kind of pursued my, my dream of doing art and design. So that is how I came here.
Okay. Vinita, tell us about 2 personality traits that you learned in India that have stood you in good position since then.
I think it's just how, we are actually very, very hospitable. We are very like open-hearted when we are coming from India. We want to connect with people. So that is something that has really helped us over here. Also the fact that, we come from a place where we have a very good education. We have very good family values. And that also helps us connect with people like over here, because that is a plus point that we are educated in English medium schools. we can talk, we can communicate very well, and we have all the warmth and all the the values which are there in the Indian community here. So that really helped us connect with the people here.
Okay. Shazia, it's your turn now. Please tell us how was your journey after DPS?
I was very much in Delhi. Right after school also, I went for a bachelor's, which I did from Hindu in zoology. Then I followed that up with a master's, also from Delhi University, at a place called ACBR. And then I actually went in for a PhD, which was also in Delhi, which was at the National Institute of Immunology. And when 2010 was an eventful year because I got married and I finished my PhD. And in parallel, that was the time I got married. My husband had already been in Boston for about a year at that point, and he had come to Boston for postdoctoral training. So what led me to US was a combination of the personal and professional both. Looking back, it sounds like it was, perfectly aligned, but at that time it felt a bit chaotic. But it was really a combination of, right, getting married, so obviously I'm going to stay with my husband and I'm going to do a postdoc. So, Boston is the place to be for a science person. So it was a combination of both the things that led me to Boston, and I've been here since.
Okay. And what are the two personality traits learned in India that stood you in good stead?
I think Vinita summed it up really well, but if I were to put it in my own way, I would say being hardworking is something that comes to Indians culturally, right? We are supposed to work hard. That's what's expected. And I think the second thing is being respectful, because that's the way we're all brought up, to respect our elders, respect our peers. So I think these two. And if I were to add a third one, I would say also sincerity, because there's a lot of emotion behind being an Indian, so it tends to come out as sincerity also.
Okay. Now I have a professional question for both of you. I'll start with you, Vinita. Vinita, please highlight the importance of art and craft in a child's life.
Oh, I just feel I just feel art is so important for everybody, and especially like when you're growing up. I feel sad that we are given art classes or art courses when we are younger, when we are in elementary school, but they are taken out as you move into higher grades. So I'm a big propagator of doing some kind of creative activity, being involved in either art or music or something throughout your life. Something that can really help you in your other fields or whatever you're working with, to have something because it can be a really great outlet. It can be really a place to come back to when you need to in hard times. So I want the kids to get an art education right from the beginning. Excuse me, not a formal training, but something that they learn, they familiarize themselves with, and they can come back to whenever they need to.
True, indeed, art plays a very important role in child's life, as I understand. Shazia, we are in one of the worst phases that anybody could see. The biggest pandemic of our times is COVID. So tell us, as a scientist, what is your message for us?
Okay, so first I want to clarify that I am not a virologist. I am not a medical professional. I am not an immunologist. Okay, so I am not an expert in infections or coronavirus at all. But as a scientist who has some understanding of this and who talks to people who know more than me about this, I think this is a serious pandemic. And I think social distancing, masking, these are to be taken pretty seriously, in my opinion, because we've seen the effect this can have, and it's particularly targeting people who have comorbidities or people who are vulnerable populations, crowded. It also has an economic link to it, because with crowding and less facilities, people tend to have more adverse effects. So in my opinion, my very humble opinion, I think it's right to take precautions. It's right to be careful, protect yourself, protect your family, protect your community. And it can actually be done by something as simple as wearing a mask, be respectful of your personal space and other people's personal space. Um, and wearing a mask doesn't just save you, it also protects people in the community, because you may be asymptomatic and still be able to transmit the infection. So, and yeah, in my humble opinion, social distancing and masking is the right thing to do right now. Yeah, I'm not a medical professional, so I don't have any advice around that, but be careful, everyone. Stay safe and stay healthy.
That's a very important message for all of us. Vinita, my next question is for you. You migrated in 97. So how were your initial years in US? Your husband was already there before you. So how did you guys adjust to life thereafter?
So my initial years, I think the biggest change for me was that I came from Delhi, which was a big city with a lot of activity, a lot of hustle bustle, and I came to Raleigh, North Carolina, which is a smaller town. So for me, that was a big change coming from a bigger city to a smaller place. And it felt a little bit more laid back, more slower, especially like 22 years ago. It was even more so at that time. So that was a big adjustment I had to make. But when I came here, I enrolled into an art school almost like within 6 months. And that really helped me get into a schedule, get into my momentum of doing something that I like to do. I didn't have to make any other kind of major adjustments because my husband was already settled here. So things were already kind of in place for me. So I didn't have to go and, find fend for myself or kind of figure things out. So that part was already in place for me. But definitely the change of being from a big city coming to a smaller place was a very big change for me. And I kind of slowly got adjusted to it. And now I really love this place now. It's really grown on me. But those initial years, because I was going to art school, that really helped me. And then also my husband's support was there, his group of, people that he worked with. So we ended up having a good friend circle. So it was a good transition, I would say.
Okay. Shazia, how about you? How was your journey there, initial settlement?
It felt very smooth. It didn't feel bumpy at all. I think a major reason for that was that my husband was already here for a year. He lived in a studio apartment till that point. So once I joined him, we moved to a one-bedroom apartment. But things were set up. If you think about it, I was going from one home to another home. So it wasn't bumpy or anything. I think it was a smooth transition, and Boston is a very walk friendly, everything friendly city. It's a very nice place, Boston, and greater Boston area. So I really like the city from the start, which always helps if you like the place you go to. It's actually very easy to navigate and get around as well. Much easier than Delhi, to be completely honest. In Delhi, I was, worried about certain things. Distances can be large, traffic can be confounding. So Boston was easier. It's easier to get around. That's what I realized. So because of it being so easily navigable, it wasn't hard to uh, fit in. Once I started working, that's when I think my real adjustment began. And it was not problematic, but there were subtle differences in the way US is and India is, and then you perceive them when you actually start going to work. Or for example, Mamrita was going to college, she must have perceived certain differences there. None of it was hard, but it's just different. So I would say it was a pretty smooth transition.
Okay. Shazia, my next question is for you only. In your current work routine, is there any reference to India?
I work in Elsevier, which is a global company. And I have actually, our production office is based in Chennai, in India.
Okay.
So everyone knows India's on the map. So it's a multicultural organization spread across the world. So everyone knows where India is. I have a few colleagues who are Indian origin, or like me, moved to India a few years back. Moved from India a few years back. So yeah, India is very well known, and we have a production office, and I work with 3 of my colleagues there from time to time on certain aspects. So well known.
Okay, that's great to know. How about you, Vinita?
Um, my work actually, I've kind of evolved into doing something which is very personal to me, and I'm not trying to bring Indian. I mean, obviously, my whole the way I was brought up and my Indian influences are always there with me, and they do reflect a little bit in my work. But the way the current place that I am in my work, like I'm doing abstracts. There is a little bit of influence, but I would say I'm just kind of more on my personal journey as an artist. But I do see a lot of people here, especially in the Indian community, who are artists, and they are working with a lot of things which are derivative of the Indian arts and crafts, like madhubanis or things like that. And I really love it. I love when they bring that kind of familiarity to the work or those kind of influences. But my own personal work, I think it is just my journey, and um, I don't see any kind of an Indian motif or any kind of a very strong Indian. When looking at my work, I don't feel that anybody can make out that there is an Indian influence to it. But as a person, definitely, because I grew up there, I'm informed by what I learned growing up.
Okay. Over to you, Tanya.
Okay, so Vinita, while you're living in US, so and you've been working there as well. So what do you think are the two main differences in the work environment and the lifestyle that you saw here in India and now that you feel in US?
Okay, so the workplace, I can't compare too much because over here I have been mostly self-employed. And in India, I was working for a few years in a graphic design company, but that was a very different atmosphere. It was not a typical Indian workplace. I was working under people who had their training from US. So it was a very different, chilled out, cool atmosphere, unlike a typical Indian workplace. So that was a different experience. And over here, I've had a couple of internships, but I've not really worked in an office scenario to kind of compare that. But in generally, I've seen that even when I'm approaching people or I'm interacting related to my work or my teaching, I just get very positive response from everybody. And I get a lot of support, and I get a very positive feedback. But in terms of living, I think there is a lot of difference because living here in this country, you have to be a multitasker. You really have to switch from one activity to the other the whole day because there is nobody else to do it for you. And that is a big change that I feel like in India, you could really sit down and do your work for longer periods of time because you had other people who could help you out with other things, right? But over here, that doesn't happen, and especially if you have a family, if you have a kid. So that is the thing, that life over here, you have to be a multitasker. You have to kind of organize your day. You have to set your priorities, what need to be done today, what is the most urgent thing. So that is a very big difference that I find living here. Also, I feel that people over here give you more personal space as compared to in India, and they are kind of more they just kind of stay in their own, they kind of stick to what their agenda is, and they kind of give you the space to kind of be who you are. And in India, there are good and bad. So I really love it that you can have interactions in India with people and you feel they're so personal. You really get to connect to people in a very different way, which is awesome. I enjoy doing that when I go back. But sometimes there is a little bit of lack of, a personal space over there. But there is also an immense connectivity with people on a personal level.
Wonderful. I think you're absolutely spot on. And in Shazia, how about you? What do you think are the major differences? Basically, maybe just two major differences that you would like to share between the work lifestyle, work environment or the lifestyle that you saw when you just moved there, and now just evaluate, okay, this is a stark difference now?
If you honestly, sometimes it almost feels like two different worlds. You know, uh, sometimes it can really feel that it's two different worlds, and it's difficult to describe how it's different, because sometimes when I go home to India, I meet people and they say, "How's it different? Kaise alag hai?" And I always get flummoxed by that question, because it's really different worlds. And maybe, to be fair, I would also add that maybe I don't have a fair comparison, because I've lived in the US at a different life stage, and I was in India at a different life stage, right? I grew up in Delhi, went to school, went to college, etc. Then here I came, I started working, I was married. So maybe it's not a fair comparison. Uh, but really, sometimes it can feel like two different worlds. There's cultural differences. And when I say culture, I don't just mean the way you live or you dress, the way you interact with people, the basic way of interacting with people inside your family, outside your family. It's different in India and in the US. And none of it is, nothing is good, nothing is bad. It's just different. It's a very subtle cultural difference that you see, and you expect different kind of behaviors here as you have in India. I mean, Vinita raised a very interesting point about, people give you a lot of personal space, and I think that's great. There's a lot of acceptance. You can be whoever you want. I can dye my hair pink tomorrow and go out. Nobody will bat an eyelid. Okay, I dye my hair pink and go out. A lot of my relatives might tell me, "बेटा ये क्या कर लिया?" और या फिर ये क्यों कर लिया, या अरे तुम्हारे सारे बाल गिर जाएंगे. But I'll tell you, one thing is not better than the other, because the major difference that I find between India and US is, here you, being a person who doesn't have your family here, you feel a sense of isolation, and it hits you from time to time. So वो वाली आंटी जो पिंक बाल वाली थी, sometimes you might miss even those people, because you're like, यहाँ पे कोई है ही नहीं जो बोलेगा ऐसे. So it's bittersweet, and the differences are subtle, they're cultural, but really it can feel like different worlds. I will say that a lot of things in US are designed to make your life easy, which is more helpful. For example, you have a dishwasher, you have a laundry machine, that's very helpful. Grocery shopping, I find it very easy. Department store, mega, you grab everything you need. But those things are also convenient in a way in India, because in India you can get help. You can get someone who comes to clean your house, someone, you can hire a cook. You can say, "Mujhe roti banana acha nahi lagta, I'm going to get someone to make rotis for me. Yahan pe roti banana hai to, you have to
Put in like 2 hours of labor.
Side note is that I can cook everything except roti. Roti nahi banti mujhse achhi. Paratha ban jata hai fir bhi." So, but India mein wo advantage hai if you look about convenience. Yeah, so it's two different worlds, and both are good in their own ways. But I will say that I really miss having my close family here, and I think that is what makes the difference between US and India at the end of the day. Because people who have their parents here or siblings here, whatever, I'm sure they have a different experience.
I can only imagine, living a life altogether in a different city and not having your near and dear ones.
But I will add that I'm fortunate to have very good friends here. A lot of them are Indians. They're very warm, and I know I can call them anytime. But the pace of life is such that you meet people less frequently, and family is irreplaceable. So that's the part that sometimes pinches. But otherwise, both places have merit.
I just want to add what Shazia is saying, that what she talked about, the isolation and the loneliness that we feel here, that is absolutely true. Especially when you don't realize the importance of like your close family when you're living in India, because you've lived with them all throughout. So you don't even think about it. But when you go out and you live for a certain amount of time, then you realize their importance and how much you miss them, and the loneliness that is over here. So I totally agree to what Shazia mentioned. And the chapati part too.
On that note, let me ask you, how often do you visit India now?
Me?
How? Yeah.
Less often than I would like, because you get embroiled in things. My aim is to go over once a year, and my parents come over once a year. My in-laws comes over once a year. So in that way, we tend to meet frequently. Since I had my son, my parents come twice a year. Bonus, emotional. So I get to see my folks pretty often, but yeah, I go to India less than I would have imagined I would be going, and that's because of so many complications, not being able to get enough. When you're traveling to India, I want to go for a few weeks at the very least. So finding the time, two people coordinating, in sometimes it can be because of visa issues, that your work permit is valid but your visa is not valid, and so you have to plan that you might have to go back, get a stamping done. So it becomes complicated. So yeah, I've traveled back to India less often than I would have liked, but the aim is an annual visit.
And how long is that visit for you? And what do you do generally when you are here? Who do you visit? Where do you stay?
Mummy, Papa, apna purana room. That's the thing. And of course, close relatives and friends. But mummy, papa, and husband's parents. That's like the top priority.
Wonderful. Vinita, how about you? How often do you visit India now?
So I go mostly once a year in the summer months. That's when my daughter has her the longest break. So we go there in the summer month. I stay with my parents, my brother. They live in a joint family. My husband's family is all settled here. So when I go, I just stay with my parents. Usually 4 to 5 weeks is the time. We just spend a lot of time just sitting and chatting, catching up, and doing all the usual stuff. It's very relaxing. It's really yeah, it's something we look forward to. Yeah.
Is there something special you like to visit when you come to Delhi?
There are certain shopping areas that I like to go every time. There are certain places that I have to go for food, like for chola bhaturas and things like that. So there are obviously there's a checklist that is on, and relating to some shopping or some food. But also, like, my parents have recently moved to Gurgaon, so they're not in Delhi anymore. So definitely all of that. My last visit was very different because we didn't go to the usual places in Delhi. We were exploring new places in Gurgaon. So that was fun too. But just being with the family, just spending time with them, I feel it could be anywhere. It's just so precious that I didn't even miss my house in Delhi where they've moved from. I was just with them, and that itself made a huge difference. Yeah.
Totally understand. Ashish ji?
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. Okay, tell me, Vinita, festivals remind us of various community engagements, special dresses, special food, and
Right.
all those activities. So, how do you celebrate major Indian festivals there?
So we celebrate a lot of Indian festivals. First of all, I have to say that we celebrate more than what we did in India, because we have this group of friends and we celebrate it with our Indian friends here. And a lot of them are from all different parts of India. So we are celebrating almost so many different festivals. Like, we'll do Lori, we'll celebrate some South Indian festivals, we'll even do Christmas. So there is a lot of celebrations going on throughout the year over here, because we've just adopted everything that was happening here, and we are doing everything what our friends are also doing. But definitely there are a few festivals which are very important for us, like Holi, Diwali, and so we really we celebrate it on the weekends mostly. Diwali, we'll do it on the day of Diwali, but the other festivals, we meet up on the weekends and we celebrate them. And there is a lot of food, a lot of music, a lot of traditional Indian dressing, a lot of fun. And we really enjoy that time. And my daughter, she really loves Indian clothes, Indian culture. So she has a great time every time we are celebrating anything. So that part, but I would definitely say that I do miss my family during these occasions a little bit, because although I am with my friends and we're having a great time, especially during Rakhi or some of those other festivals, you really miss your close family at that time.
Okay. And how about you, Shazia? Tell
Festivals
us
are
about the
super
festivities.
Festivals are super important, and I think it becomes even more important to make sure you celebrate them when you're here, because that's part of your identity. That's who you are. Especially with my son, like he needs to see this, right? So, like Vanita, we have friends from different parts of India here, so we end up celebrating all the festivals. The most special still remains Eid.
Mhm.
So there is full on traditional dressing and full on traditional food. Initially, when we got married and it was just my husband and me, and we knew less people, we didn't have too many friends. We gradually had more friends. Um, we always take the day off on Eid. That's like a rule. चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए छुट्टी लेनी है. Let's keep it a rule. So we take the day off, and initially what we would do is we would get lots of stuff and पिछली रात से पकाना शुरू. And we would cook 1, 2, 3, 4, पता नहीं कितनी सारी dishes. And then we would joyfully enjoy them on Eid and of course the following days. So typically Eid then used to be subah, you do your prayers, you everything, you FaceTime with everybody back home, show them your nice attire. And they're all in the night suits because time difference, but you're like, nahi, nahi, aap log bhi dress up kariye. So do that, and then we would typically just, roam around the city, come back. Then we started having friends over for Eid dinner, or if it suited people better on the weekend, which was a joining. And we do similar things on Diwali, for example. Somebody will say, this weekend pe hum Diwali manate hain. So we go and we celebrate with Indian food, Indian clothes, dressing up, weather permitting, of course. So yeah, festivals are important, they remain important, but the same thing, you miss your family. You miss the way you celebrated there. You miss having a constant stream of people coming to your house. For example, growing up in Delhi, Eid had a very set pattern. It was like subah ko my brother and my father would go to the mosque with my chachas and my all other cousins. They would go, they would come back. Then my mother and I would get the house ready, and then we would go quickly and meet my nana, that side of the family. Come back, and then we would have a family dinner, family lunch or family dinner with my father's side of the family. यहाँ पे वो सब नहीं होता. And then a lot of friends would come over to meet, like family friends, friends of my parents, sometimes my friends. That constant stream of people doesn't happen, but we sometimes have a party, and so we have a few people. So you again, you miss the people. You miss the abundance of people. And the 100% festivity there, because वहाँ पे one festival means everyone is celebrating, right? So.
Okay. I will have a rapid fire round with you. In this, typically you have to give answers in maximum one sentence. Vinita, I'll play this round with you. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. Describe yourself as a teenager in 3 words.
Quiet, artistic, and just introspective.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty diverse range. Now I'll ask another question of the same sort. Describe yourself today as a parent in 3 words.
Compassionate, very just nurturing, compassionate, also a little stressful.
Okay. And my next question is, what would you call your high point of your life?
The birth of my daughter was a very important event. Moving to US was another big life-changing event that happened. The other important events as far as my work is concerned is when I got certain awards, when my work was published, in some magazines, and that was a high point. When I was in India, I used to play bowling, and I actually won the national bowling tournament there.
Can we all do a round of applause? Okay. My next question is a piece of advice that changed your life.
I think it was like you always have to follow your path, and I learned that in my art the most.
Mhm.
Don't copy anybody, just follow what you have to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vinita, if you could turn the clock back to when would you want to rewind?
I think I would want to rewind to the time when I was working in Delhi,
Mhm.
because that is the time when I had a lot of learning, a lot of different experience.
Okay. Wonderful. With that, I come to an end of this round with you.
So, Shazia, are you ready for your rapid fire round? Okay, question number one. If you could go back to time, which is the point of time you would like to land to?
Really hard. Maybe I'll go back to college or maybe class 11th or something. Um, yeah, that would be an interesting point to go back to, but only if I could go back with what I already know now, right? With the same amount of knowledge. Otherwise, I think I would just do the same things again. That would be interesting to go back half a lifetime and see if different choices yield different outcomes. Interesting.
A heavy note that is.
Science
Okay,
fiction lover, science and science fiction lover.
okay, what is your go-to strategy in a crisis?
Crisis. First, I panic,
Oh,
then I calm down, and then I break it down to ye karna hai, and then I do it. That's it.
okay,
Deal with it.
fair enough. Okay, what's the sweetest thing that your family did for you when you moved to US?
When I was moving here, I just got married, right? And so there was already a lot of celebration and nice send off. So yeah, all of it was very sweet. Everyone came to see me off, and you know.
Okay, so one song that you can never forget.
Well, my favorites keep changing, but I one song I really like is Abhi Na Jao Chhod Ke. So I
Very
love old songs because I know this is rapid fire, but old songs because my parents used to put on old songs every Sunday morning. So I love them, and we still do that sometimes here. Put on old songs.
wonderful. Okay, so one book that has inspired you and that you would want, maybe your children or maybe some other in the people in the audience to must read that can change their life.
I mostly read fiction. I don't read this kind of inspiring or motivational books. But I will say that in fiction there are a lot of wonderful books that force you to read and think about things. One book I really like is Contact by Carl Sagan. It's a science fiction book, but it has a lot of things thrown in that force you to think about things. So yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I can't think of any motivational book per se, but I can recommend a few books which I really like, and one of them is Carl Sagan's Contact. There's I really like the author Daphne du Maurier because her books force you to think about things, but none of it is motivational inspiration. It's just these are good books worth reading. Maybe To Kill a Mockingbird is something I think everyone should read. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Excellent book.
I totally agree on that. I think this rapid fire round went very nicely.
We really had nice insights from them. The next question is for Shazia. Shazia, can you give us two instances where your dil is still Hindustani?
And there are many instances. It's completely still word should be removed from the question for me because I'm very much Indian in every way possible. My thinking is Indian, but food completely, we cook at home and our food is dominantly Indian. And I think our cultural values and the way we conduct ourselves, it remains Indian.
Okay.
So those are the two things.
Okay, perfect. How about you, Vinita?
Just like Shazia said, definitely what keeps us connected is definitely our heart and soul still belongs to India. That's what I feel like, and that shows in our everyday life. But the food, the is very big thing. The way we celebrate our festivals, that's a big indication that we still, our heart still kind of beats for India. So it's just our everyday, day-to-day life, the way we bring up our kids, I think, the values that we that we are trying to teach them, and all our connection to Bollywood. All of that keeps us, the India alive in us.
Okay.
My question is to Vinita. Do you have any plans to shift back to India permanently?
So something inside me says that I want to move back, but I don't see it happening right now. I still have to wait for the right time, the right circumstances for that to happen. But if maybe after 5, 10, 15 years, I might think about moving back. Um, but currently there is no such, you know, there's no such plan, or there is nothing concrete.
Shazia, how about you? Do you
Uh,
think that you would ever like to move back to India?
it's not really a question of like or dislike. It's just, I think it's dictated by circumstances and situations. So as of right now, it's not on the cards. But if 2022 has taught us anything, that is that plans can change and situations can change. So I don't know. It's an unknown. But as of right now, there is no plan. For now, we are here.
Okay. Okay. So, my question is to Shazia. Shazia, when did you last visit your school DPS?
It's been a very long time. I mean, I passed out 20 years back. I think I must have gone at some point in college. So I think it's been a good 17, 18 years since I went back to school. I think they also stopped letting you inside school. Like I remember when I was in school, a lot of seniors would just walk in and you would see them. And if you knew them, you could go chat with them. I think after a certain point, one of my friends said, "Oh, I was passing by school the other day and I wanted to go in and they wouldn't let me in." So I think that was discouraging. Otherwise, I might have gone more often.
I totally agree. How about you, Vinita? When did you last visit the school?
I don't even remember. It's such a very, very, very long time ago. And I don't actually remember going inside the school building after I passed out. But I've seen the building, like, driving from there. I've seen the building from outside, and every time I see it, looks different. Something has changed. I think they have added more, like, some extension. I think the place where all the buses used to be parked, I think that has become now a part of they have made some structure there, like classrooms. It looks very different from outside when we do it, but I haven't really gone in. I can't remember going in.
It's more fortified now with a lot of guards in place, but the school has always been fun. I keep on visiting it often.
I'll ask you, Shazia, first. What would be a message to DPS alumni community?
Message.
Yeah.
Wow, it's like a huge group, but I'll
Message,
just
advice, or
say
whatever.
stay uh, stay the way you are, make connections. I think it's a great community of people across branches, across batches. Uh, Thank you, Rajiv ji, for taking this initiative to make possible connections. So my message is just stay happy, um, make connections, interact with others. It's nice to be part of the community.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Vinita?
So I totally agree to everything that Shazia just said. Uh, and I also want to add that, when you're in school, it's just the first phase of your life. So it's like a groundwork for a lot of things to come later. So make the most out of it, have fun, and just think of it as a very important step towards other things that's going to come up later on in your life. So
Okay, and what
that's
about the senior alumni like us?
Well, I don't think the senior alumni need any advice. Or I think they're all doing great.
Okay. So first of all, with that, we come to an end of this question answer session. So I would like to thank you, Shazia, and thank you, Vinita, for taking time out and talking to us. It has been wonderful to know about your incredible journey, and I'm sure this will inspire many dipsite and many aspiring people, aspiring dipsites as well as the younger generation.
Divanga Deka, 82 batch, Mathura Road. Now I'm living in Russia, Moscow. I used to be in US before.
Okay.
It's 8 a.m. in California. I'm enjoying this conversation, so I'm not putting on my video. But I'm just really enjoying the viewpoints, can totally relate. And thank you so much for doing this. I think it's very heartening for other people living in the US or around the world to know that, you know, there's similar experiences being shared, and especially from our own batchmates. So happy to see Vinita there today.
Hi everyone, good to see all of you, meet all of you. So I'm Sumit Kumar from DPS Arkepuram. Maybe I'm the only one from RKP here. Batch of 1987. I stay in Bombay and this is my second time. And thank you Rajiv. Rajiv is an old friend. We've been working together on strengthening the DPS network in Bombay. So yeah, that's my connection here. Thank you.
Yeah, so 76 batch, commerce stream. Okay, how about that? That should add some value, you know. You know, early years commerce stream, all the gundas used to be in, all the nikammas and the nikhads were all pushed into commerce. But you know, so now when I look back and I see the commerce guys are the one, except me, of course, they're all ruling the world. They really are ruling the world. Because I realized after some time that even the science guys who made an app or who made a particular software, they made the millions, but they don't know what to do with it. So they need the commerce guy to come and help.
So unfair.
Huh?
सारी पढ़ाई हम करते हैं 10 साल 12 साल.
No, really. I mean, but yeah. So I always feel that. So the best combo is, you know, do sciences in school and college, and then move into, you know, the commercial world. Something I want to tell something about Sumit. He hasn't told all of you. He's a filmmaker. He's a little hesitant to talk about that, but he's a successful, well-known filmmaker, and he's a good friend of mine. Sure.
Hi, so yeah, I'm actually from a different DPS Dubai, batch of 2017.
Wow.
And I'm really enjoying this conversation. So thank you for having me.
I have a question for Mr. Deka.
Okay, listening.
Okay, do you remember Sanjeev Grover from 82 batch?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Yes, because he was in my class.
You were in 12th A, is it?
No, I was in 12B, but we were in together, I think, in 10th or 11th. I don't remember exactly.
I was wondering, you know, if you remember him or not. He's my mamu. So, so I just thought, you know, if you remember, it's something, you know, if somebody remembers, you just find, okay, wow, there's a connection there.
Actually, I grew up in the hostel, so I spent about 7 years in the hostel. And most of my friends from school days are from the hostel. Seniors, my batch. Usually we were separate from the day scholars a little bit.
Why was that?
Grover was a day scholar.
Yes. Okay.
My question always centers around DPS, and since you're talking to Vinita and Shazia who are in the US, so connecting the two, you know, what are the biggest challenge? Is the biggest challenge you faced in the US, and how did DPS, your school, enable you to overcome that? So, how did being a dipsite help you in life?
I think in DPS you get a very good all-round training, right? You get academic training, and there's also opportunity to, well, do any extracurricular activities that you like. So I think that helps. Just being well educated and having a well-rounded personality and the culture of hard work, probably that is something that can hold one in good stead anywhere in the world, right?
Yeah, I think being from DPS, you definitely get a recognition because I think everybody around the globe knows the school and they can make a connection, you know. So they know somebody or they've had some kind of experience with DPS. So that really helps, you know, when you're out here, people know that where you're from and they have a little bit of knowledge about your school. So that helps. Then all the connections that you make. That also helps. And as Shazia was saying, that there were so many different activities, there were so many things that we experienced being there, all the different subjects and all the different extracurricular activities which were there. That really helped lay a good foundation, I think, for us to kind of move forward. So definitely, it was a very good start to go, you know, to get an education from that school.
So just to add to that, any teacher who shaped your lives in general, in particular?
I think there were a lot of wonderful teachers, and some of them you remember to this day. I'm not very good at names, but I remember faces more than names. I remember some names, of course, but I think that that's a very important stage of your life, right? So a good teacher can make all the difference. I can think of a lot of teachers who were really wonderful, not just that in the way that they taught, but they also took an interest in you as a person, as a child. And, you know, I think that's important, especially in those formative years of your life.
Yeah, I can't think of any one teacher who kind of influenced me the most, but I think overall there was always some connection that you felt with the teachers that you worked with or who taught you, and that's kind of stayed with you. I remember we had a physics teacher who really helped us out, Mr. Arvind Kumar, I think his name was.
Yes.
Then I had a math teacher in middle school, Mrs. Mehra. I think she was very supportive and she really encouraged me because at that time I was good in math. So she was very, she always kind of helped me and supported me. So I kind of remember a few teachers, whose images, whose way of teaching just stuck to me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just because today is a Sunday, I was wondering, Vinita and Shazia, what do your ideal Sundays look like? Do you have any family traditions that you'd like to share?
That's a great question, I think. So on a Sunday, we usually just laze around. We don't, we just, sometimes we might go out somewhere or we might meet a friend or call some friends over. But a lot of time we are just prepping up for Monday. So we are kind of finishing, my daughter is finishing up her homework. We are trying to finish up laundry and such stuff. So Sunday is not really that fun a day. Fridays and Saturdays are more fun. Sundays are more like, okay, let's just finish all the things that we haven't done at home and let's start prepping up for Monday. Yeah.
Well, my personal agenda is to get up late on a Sunday. So that's something I really look forward to. But like Vinita said, you know, the weekend here, one day is for chores and one day is for taking it easier. So you tend to feel more elated on Friday evening because you have the weekend ahead, and possibly also on Saturday. I mean, by about Sunday afternoon, you're like, all right, I need XYZ things to be done before the week starts. So, but it's still a relaxing day. Sunday evening is when you start feeling bad about Monday coming up. But one day for chores, one day for enjoying it. It can vary. It can be Saturday, Sunday, depending. And long weekends are very exciting because then Monday is a holiday, and I love long weekends.
The comment I was going to make when you were talking about rotis, and I wanted to tell both Shazia Sahiba as well as Vinita, you can't believe the accuracy in rotis that I have. Yeah, and I learned it in the US.
I taught my wife how to make rotis.
There you go.
Now
See?
I can relax.
See?
I don't have to.
Your wife
Life
is
is
from
much
Russia.
easier to cook.
Yes, she's Russian.
Wow. So that's really commendable, you know.
This is actually a little more serious. So Shazia and Vinita, you both talked a little bit about how you found very accepting environments in the US, like respectable towards different kinds of identities. I know you talked about pink hair, for example, and I was just wondering if you have any ideas for us to be able to inculcate this sort of respect from an early age in school children, like in the DPS environment.
Honestly, I don't know. This is something I guess we have to lead by example, is what I would say. That's what I do as a parent. I try to behave in the way that I think is the ideal or best way to behave. And that's how children learn. That's what I've realized. I mean, my son is 5, so, very young age. So he will imbibe what I'm doing. If I speak harshly or roughly, he will think that is the normal way to behave. If I'm polite in my interactions, if I use good language, he will pick up those words. So I think children are so pure and innocent. They absorb everything that environment offers them. They observe everything. They observe so much. Sometimes you're shocked. I mean, even when he was 3, he'll be sitting in a corner and I'm talking to my husband about something. And the next day he'll ask me about it. I'm like, I didn't even know you were paying attention. And he typically speaks in English, although we speak in Urdu at home. He understands Urdu. And he'll be like, you were saying this. What was that? And so, I think you have to lead by example. You have to behave in the way you expect or hope other people around you will behave. At the same time, you may encounter behavior which is less than ideal. I think you have to be graceful and know when to let it go. But if it crosses a boundary, I think you have to also gracefully and respectfully defend that and say, look, this is not right. But it's a difficult balance to accept. I mean, that's what I do. I have had people here who behaved with me in a slightly racist fashion twice, and I didn't like it, but I handled it the way I thought was appropriate. But I've been fortunate that mostly, Boston is a great place to be. But yeah, I think so. I guess the summary is behave in the way you want other people to behave with you, especially around kids. Teach kids that it's good to be accepting, but also to defend yourself when needed. It's a hard thing to do. I'm still trying to come up with ways to do all this, but maybe, I think this is a question that the seniors on that call can answer really much better than I can. So insights are welcome. Advice is welcome.
Yes, please.
So yeah, this is a very important question, and living here in this country, we've learned how to accept everybody around us, and not to feel or to seclude somebody. And that happens more easily when you are in a foreign country, because you're yourself looking for acceptance from others. So you tend to treat everybody the same way because you want to be treated that way. So living here, I think, because you are in a foreign environment, you are at your best behavior because you really want to melt in, right? So that really helps. Living in India, again, I think it's the family values that come in, because the way what kids see at home, I think that's the first and the major influence on them. So definitely the teachers have a role in school to provide that kind of an environment and that kind of the values. But I think it all starts from home. So the home environment has to be conducive, respectful, and it's, I think that's where it all begins. But we are fortunate we are in this country that, everybody is so respectful, everybody accepts us and includes us. And that's what we are experiencing, and that's what our kids are learning here.
I saw a very interesting video on Facebook. I'm forgetting the name of the company, but the video talked about films made in Hollywood which project America in a positive sense, and that is what makes America an admirable and a want to be their company, want to be their country. Whereas Bollywood doesn't do that. Bollywood shows people, even now, either not giving the right amount of respect to the women, or not, or just singing songs, for the heck of it. I mean, they're not really projecting India as such. Very interesting. I mean, what I immediately responded to that was that 9 years ago, I wrote a story about it's a college rom-com where two people come, in place of going from India to America, they come from America to India. And how, they both fall in love with each other and they fall in love with India. I must have spoken to at least 20 film producers and directors in Mumbai. None of them thought it worth their while. And when I saw this, I put it up over there. I said, okay, let's see. But I'm not trying to showcase my story. What I'm saying is that really, when you look at a lot of films coming out of Hollywood, they actually project their country in a very, very powerful, maybe subtle, but very powerful way, which is where people then want to go to America. They show the lovely beaches, they show the fabulous cars, they show the malls. Why don't we do something like that? I mean, why are our films from Mumbai so,
It's an interesting point, but I think it's also films are after all business, so they make what they think will sell. So in America, maybe patriotism, they glorify America sells. In India also, it's the same thing. It's about what sells. Of course, you have patriotic films also coming out now, like Uri, etc., which have done very well. And actually those kind of films which make you feel good. So it's all about making you feel good. Even if you see there are women projected in a certain light, maybe, which is a kind of repressive thing. But then there's always that the good versus bad, so it's always the good winning in the end. So it's always feel good in that sense. That really works. So how they come to that is maybe different. Of course, it reflects a kind of a sensibility or a attitude in each of these countries. But if you really look at it, American society is very different from India, and from what I understand, even what they show in America is not really true. I mean, you may see beaches and girls and all that, but
right.
America at heart is very conservative as I understand it. So it's not really what you see there. It's all larger than life in a sense. Maybe it's glorification in that sense, but it's not really America in that sense. I don't know. Rita and Shazia now would be able to answer that better.
I'll say this thing about movies. Like I do watch some movies and series, and I will say there's a spectrum in Hollywood and in Bollywood. I think there are movies made also in the US which are showing the gritty realities of life. Or, for example, there's this movie called The Town. It's actually based in the Boston area in a place called Charlestown, which is not the greatest part of the city. There's some poverty, different socioeconomic status. So that movie actually projects what Charlestown is like, in the gritty sense, the good and the bad. So I think there is realistic cinema, and then there is fantasy cinema. Maybe it's the movies which show the malls and everything which get more popular. But I think all sorts of movies are made in Hollywood and Bollywood. And this is just my opinion as a viewer who watches a few things. So I think there's a spectrum in both. What do you think, Vinita?
Yeah, I think I agree. Also what Sumit said, like, everything is made in reference to what appeals to people and what sells, right? So there has become a trend in Bollywood to kind of make the kind of movies in which there are these songs and they are picturized in a particular way. And it's almost become like a selling trend for those movies. So that's what I think is what's happening right now. And I agree that in Hollywood, there are all different kinds of movies which are made. A lot of movies which are sci-fi and fictional is what people like here. That's what people like to watch. So that's what, it gravitates towards. As far as glorifying India is concerned, I think, I don't know how, that would be a radical shift in the Bollywood cinema. To do that right now, because right now they are on a path where there's just I think there's a lot of commercial aspect to it right now. And I think there is a difference when there were the movies that were made in 80s or 70s. I think they had more substance to them and they were showing more reality, or they were more closer to the reality of Indian life as compared to what is, or at least I feel so disconnected sometimes with the movies because I've been out of India for so long that I just feel that it's just not portraying what the true India is or how the people over there are living. So definitely I feel there is a disconnect with reality over there. And it would be good to see some movies which actually show more of the Indian values, the culture, and what actually is happening there.
There's a lot of cinema, even in the US. I mean, there's underground cinema, there's black cinema with Spike Lee. And so there's a lot of films that are Hollywood, you know. So Hollywood is just a general term for the big cinema films that you see. But there's a lot of small films, wonderful gems, even from the 60s. And similarly, India, as Neeta was saying, the Gautam Ghosh, Power, and the regional filmmakers. There's a lot of, we talk about Bollywood, but there's a lot of Hindi cinema also, but also a lot of regional cinema, which is amazing cinema out there, especially in Kerala. You know, it's, as we call it, the Iran of cinema. So there's a lot of amazing cinema which depict reality. And even in India, now you're seeing a lot of middle class cinema, in a sense, we call it. You're taking from the Punjabi culture to the Indian middle class, you know, like Bareli Ki Barfi or all those Rajkumar Rao's films, you know. So they're all reflecting middle class now. And even Gully Boy, in that sense, is reflecting Bombay slums, Bombay. And it's a real life story about Naz and Divine, you know. So it's a real story. So it's reflective of reality also in that sense. Of course, with cinema, you take a few liberties to maybe make it more presentable, interesting, you know. So it's not always absolutely to the realistic. So that is there, you know. So everyone, what interesting incidents that happened in school that they remember, you know. And just to add to that, even my class 11 and 12 that I did in DPS Arkipuram, we had the notorious this non-ability section. We had people like, I remember Nikhil Jain and of course Vikrant Shibar, who's Gauri Khan's brother, who was in our class. I don't know him very well. I don't remember him much, but he was there in us in the commerce non-abilities. You know? So yeah, so for everyone too.
Really enjoyed School Teachers' Day and farewells. They were very festive.
Totally.
And the 12th graders got to dress up in saris. I think I loved, I think Teachers' Day and farewells were very exciting.
I agree to that, Shazia. So looking forward to Teachers' Day in 12th grade. So I agree to that.
Now we have a collage of all the screens. Let's all wish goodbye in our own way.
I'm just going to say thank you for having me here. It was fun chatting with everybody and hope to continue chatting with you all. And have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
Wherever you are.
Touch.
Thank you guys for getting me on the show and giving me a chance to talk and think about all these things that, you know, I felt disconnected because I've been here for so long. So thank you for giving me that chance to talk about it. And definitely I feel like I need to kind of continue to take part in these discussions and try and continue to make connections, which I think is going to be very important. So thank you for giving me a chance to start with it.
Yeah, hi. It was great connecting. मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि राजीव भाई और मैं, we are like fossils in the group from way back. All are very young, but it was very interesting. I hope to see you again next week. So Jai Hind.
Good night. Shabbat khair. Khuda Hafiz. फिर मिलेंगे.
So my heart beats for DPS in India. So I always remember service before self DPS. So thank you. It was a wonderful meeting, everyone. Take care and stay safe.
I'd like to say thank you so much for joining, to Vinita, Sumit, Shazia, everybody. It was so fun and so interesting to know your lives and, you know, your journey throughout from being a dip site to where you are now. Looking forward to getting connected to you, and thank you so much for having this conversation with us. Bye bye. Have a good time ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. Hope to be here more often, and stay safe, stay healthy.
I'll thank all of you and we will close it now. Good night, Jai Hind, and see you all in the next week at the same time. Thank you. Bye.